Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Irish Abroad Show, a shortened Irish Abroad Show this week for reasons we don't want to talk about anymore. Jer, how are we this week? Plenty to talk about, including Shamrock Rovers currently playing right now in the Europa Conference League and the Ireland squad that was announced today as well.
Yeah, starting to get that international break kind of 5 bit later than usual in the month of September. Obviously, two massive games, a massive window in general coming for Ireland when you throw in the 21's playoffs as well. But two massive games as well as we try and matchfully we can still secure a top spot in our Nations League group. But I think realistically, to get second place, which should be enough to guarantee us at least a playoff for the Euros, regardless of how our qualifying campaign goes, but also to help protect our seeding for that draw. I think overall, in general, no major surprises or exclusions from the squad today. I was thinking maybe Darragh Lenihan was hard done by, but I think he might be nursing an injury. And then you also kind of look at what defender you take out. Maybe Shane Duffy, because he hasn't played much football with Fulham this season. Had a shaky enough window in June, but does bring a lot of experience. Midfield, I do think maybe there was the one harsh exclusion of Mark Sykes, if we touched on the show. He's playing some brilliant football since he moved up a division to Bristol City this season. And Conor Hurhan, has dropped down to League One. But again, I suppose Stephen Kenny will probably look and see he's got experience and a lot that he brings to the team. Striker options, God, it really kind of took care of itself. Maybe Will Keane can feel a little bit hard done by because he's in decent form with Wigan. But you look at Scott Hogan, who's been in excellent form at Birmingham, fresh off a hat trick last night. Obafemi hasn't really hit the ground running so far this season. He's been left out of the Swansea squad the last couple of games, but that's more with personal issues. But in general, I think you'd give him the benefit of the doubt on account of what he produced in that game against Scotland. Likewise, for the likes of Troy Parrott and Callum Robbins in particular as well. Interesting to see a very, very strong under 21 squad. As well, we've seen the likes of Festi Abasedi, Aaron Connolly, who got previous senior team call up experience in there as well. Good to see a couple of the League of Ireland players, the likes of Luke McNicholas, even, sorry, from Sligo Rovers, Joe Redmond from Pats. Bit disappointed that Pat's old boy Dara Burns didn't make it, but Liam Carrigan as well on fire. Well, not on fire, but doing very well. Maybe is probably a fairer reflection with Como. So yeah, so an exciting window ahead. And as I mentioned, things not going so well for Shamrock Rovers, but this was always going to be a step up. I think they could probably disregard the two games, realistically speaking, against Ghent, and it's really probably trying to focus on the double header coming up after international break against Molde, because if they are to advance to knockout stages, they probably need 4 points within two games. But I think if Rovers can walk away from this group, having been competitive and claimed a couple of points and maybe a scalp of a win, I think that'd still be class of success for me.
Yeah, 100%. The main thing is to just keep getting results on the board, and even if it is points, they're still getting money for that, and that's what they'll be looking at as well. You
Just to
mentioned a
watch
couple.
and even the game here, I can't get over. I know maybe it's still a slightly early kick off in Belgium, but for a European game, I can't get over how empty the stadium is.
Yeah, I know. I've noticed it even in the Champions League the last one as well. The early kickoffs are ridiculous. I have no time to watch them. I'm sure you're the same as well. And a lot of the time, it's teams you actually want to watch. I mean, I think they should just go back
I
to the
suppose
normal
it
way.
is different. It's an hour later in Belgium, I suppose, where it's a quarter to
It's
seven
still
kickoff. And yeah,
it's still not a good kickoff time, really. Though,
it's look. It depends what
if
time you
that was
finish work in Belgium, I suppose.
true, true, true. Anyway, you mentioned a couple of players that we're going to be speaking about. Obviously, no matches over across the water over the weekend due to we know why. We don't need to mention it again. We'll start off with
You're not going
the
to pass
main
on
one.
your condolences and your sympathies.
Look, listen. I'm sorry she's died, but her son is a so and so, so I have no comment. Anyway, we'll move on. Scott Hogan got a hat trick, as you mentioned, for Birmingham City against West Brom Albion last night in the Midlands Derby. Jason Malumbi also got an assist in that game for West Brom, and Darragh O'Shea played for West Brom also. Scott Hogan's had a decent start to the season. He's up to 5 goals now. He's got plenty of assists as well. And Birmingham, they started kind of rocky, but they're doing okay now. And it's a very tight league this year. It's going to be hard to call.
Yeah, I suppose the championship early days is always really, really tight. It probably isn't until after maybe the Christmas fixture list into the second half of the season, maybe when things kind of spread out, who can maybe utilise the January window, get more kind of recruitment in, because the championship, the nature of games, you do need a thick squad. And Birmingham, as you mentioned, yeah, like last season, as we know, on and off the field, was a very, very difficult season. I think if you take away the fact that Derby and Reading were deducted points. I think they might have still stayed up, but just about by the skin of their teeth. So they're still fortunate enough to be a championship club, but they've got their ownership issues and all the off the field issues sorted. And like I said, they settled down now on the playing pitch. And Scott Hogan this season, yeah, like he showed glimpses of it. I think just before the COVID pandemic halted that season a couple of years ago, and he moved on low. I think he had 8 goals in around as many games, and he's hitting that kind of level of form again. And as I said, like he's back in the Ireland squad. I still do feel he has a point to prove in a green shirt. Hasn't really kind of done it. He might say he hasn't got the run of games. I would feel it's because when he's been given a chance, he hasn't really kind of done it. But he's in good form. I think he'll definitely get opportunity over the 2 windows. I don't think he'll start either game, but I definitely think he'll be introduced. But yeah, he'll definitely one player that will be chomping at the bit now going ahead. And like I said, he's even one more game to keep up his good form with Birmingham over the weekend.
Yeah, definitely, and hopefully that does continue. From Birmingham City, we go to Rotherham. Promoted Rotherham have had a fantastic start to the season. 3-0 winners over Blackpool last night. And the main man for them this season so far, Chiadozie Benny, grabbed another goal. And Georgie Kelly coming off the bench and grabbing a goal also. Jer, fantastic stuff from Rotherham again, and good to see the two lads involved.
Yeah, Rotherham were kind of like the equivalent of a Fulham, West Brom, Norwich job in the Premier League. They were always kind of too good for League One. Were never really able to stab themselves in the Championship, but they've hit the ground running really this season. You'd especially have to say for a newly promoted team. And like I said, the Irish lads very much at the heart of it. Chinoze's been brilliant. I think that was kind of the big thing we wanted to see. Like we've seen how good he was last season with Ireland, and then when he got the run of games with Ireland, he started to carry that through with Rotherham, and definitely looked like he was too good for League One. You know, a lot of people talking about maybe a move this summer, possibly Premier League and stuff like that. Let's kind of see how he pushes himself at a higher level. It's still early days. I think they haven't even played double-digit games in Championship yet this season, but he's really, really adapted well. He's really seems as if he's comfortable at this level. He's playing with confidence, which is fantastic and great to see. And brilliant as well for Georgie, because he had that fairy tale debut last season, scoring the goal that clinched promotion. You know, had to wait so long after his move from Bowes. You kind of wondered, would he maybe be one of them players that might get loaned this season because of the fact that he's pretty much going to step straight in from the League of Ireland to Championship, which is a big step up. But he's been getting game time nicely throughout the course of the season, substitute appearances. I think he'd been an unused sub for the last kind of couple of weeks. Had previously scored in the League Cup and got man of the match, and now that he's off and up and running the league, it's fantastic to see. As we know ourselves, like, you know, we've seen it, especially with Bowes last season, the talent is there and how prolific he can be. And also as well, like even on the personal level, I'm delighted from, even though I wouldn't say I closely know him, but as you probably know as well from interviewing him post matches, he does genuinely come across as one of the nicest players that was in the league. So I kind of am delighted for him as well, even from that level. Early days yet, I think, to be thinking about an international kind of call up, but good to see that he is adapting at the second tier of English football, because he's pretty much jumped from the League of Ireland to Championship, and as I said, that is not an easy thing to do.
No, definitely not. Championship is a very high level and a very high standard, as we've seen players in the past moving for double figure digit sums in the millions. So, you know, definitely a high level. From Rotherham, we go to Middlesbrough. 3-2 defeat for them at home to Cardiff on Tuesday evening. Callum O'Dowda grabbing another goal. He's had a very good start for Cardiff, even though they have been very up and down. And Callum Robinson, their new loanee, got 2 assists as well. So it was basically the show of the two of them on Tuesday night up in Riverside, Jer.
Yeah, it seems to be a kind of common trend for Callum Robinson. If you look back to when he seems to be a very fast starter when he joins a new club. Like, people forget, actually, when he joined Sheffield United in the Premier League, he actually hit the ground running with them. I think he got a goal and assist in one of their early games against Chelsea, and then kind of just lost his place in the team not long after that. And Sheffield United went on a great run of form, and you kind of, the old habit is don't change a winning team, so he couldn't break back into it. But then he went on loan to West Brom. He hit the ground running there as well, and then kind of COVID halted his kind of progress. He still had, even last season, he started West Brom very, very fast. So it's good to kind of see, like, as we've seen, even though his performance levels have dipped off a little bit with Ireland, but 12 months ago, he was probably the main man for Ireland, really, wasn't he? With then a couple of goals against Azerbaijan, the hat trick against Qatar. Hasn't quite maybe lived up to the levels kind of quite since. So it's good to see as well that he'd be another player going in with confidence as well. And Callum O'Dowda, yeah, it seems like this move has worked out perfectly. It was just probably what I needed, was a refresh, a new start. Obviously, not just because things have gone stale from a Bristol City, probably just more so with injuries. But the fact as well is coincided going to a new club, a new challenge. He's taken to like a duck to water. He's done really, really well with Cardiff City. Stephen Kenny has always spoken very fondly of him. You've always got the vibe that Kenny is a big fan of him. So it's no real major surprise to see he's back in the squad. And to be brutally honest, don't be shocked at 4 o'clock on Saturday week if you see his name in the team sheet to start against Scotland.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. Fantastic stuff from Cardiff as well. A great win. They brought in a couple of players so far, and transition year for them maybe, but hopefully they get it right. And good to see the two Irish lads involved, and hopefully they keep it going.
What's Joe Bagel's update there? Has he gone on loan, has he? Or?
I think he got injured against Bristol City a couple of weeks ago. He went off after 7 minutes. I was looking at it when we done it a few weeks ago. So he hasn't been involved in any of the squads. And that was the first time I'd seen him start this season. So I think he might be out for a while, because like 7 minutes is no real time to be going off at all. So it's probably
and he's not maybe in the 21 squad either, like so.
Yeah, that's just stuff I should have looked it up, but that's just what I remember seeing a couple of weeks ago. We go from Borough and Cardiff to Huddersfield and Wigan. 2-1 win for Wigan there. Will Keane grabbed the goal and James McLean assist. Obviously, the talking point as usual is James McLean, who stood promptly for the minute silence for the Queen. Didn't have to put his arm around the players. He'd done it, but yet they're still talking about it.
Yeah, nothing new. And look, in a couple of weeks' time, James McLean will also be once again making the headlines for not wearing the poppy, which I think would probably merely make the 10th consecutive year in a row. Just get over it. Just get on with it. Stop trying to make a story and repeating things that we already know, and just move on. An easy kind of target there. Like we've seen the Serbian lads, particularly likes of Fidic and particularly in the man of Masic, they haven't worn the poppy. It doesn't seem to be much of an issue made there. But on the field, good to see James having a really good impact. And yeah, he's another player that is having a really good season. While we mightn't have many players playing in the Premier League, you would say a lot of our players in the Championship are doing kind of quite well, especially the lads that's jumped up from League One. Now, McLean obviously is a very, very experienced and seasoned player. It's only 2 seasons ago, I think it was, maybe 3 seasons ago, when he was with Stoke. I remember we were doing Irish 11 of the season, and I think he was included in it because he had a very good season with Stoke. So he's comfortable, he's good enough to play at this level as well, and he'll definitely be a player I think that would be, certainly if he's not starting against Scotland, I think he won't be far away from it. Obviously, his teammate as well, Will Keane, will probably feel slightly hard done by not to have made the Ireland squad. But again, in the limited time I've seen him at international level, I kind of question maybe is he kind of quite good enough, kind of pacey enough, seems just a little bit kind of slow. And as I mentioned, Hogan just seems to be in a little bit better form. So I wasn't surprised to see his name excluded today.
Yeah, definitely. I think that year you're talking about with Stoke, he actually won the Player of the Year from left wing back, I think he did. And then the season after that, he was kind of cast out by Michael O'Neill from what I remember. I don't know what happened, but look, anyway, disappointed. But look, he's doing it with Wigan again. They're back in the Championship and they're doing quite well. Actually, they've had a couple of bad results, but they're doing quite well. And look, hopefully it continues for the lads there. Will Keane has started very well as well and seems to be a good penalty taker also. We can run through the rest of the results now. There's nothing much else really to talk about. I'll just say, so we'll start with Hull and Stoke City. 3-0 win for Stoke at the KC Stadium. Will Smallbone got the full 90 minutes there, and Cyrus Christie came on for 5 minutes for Hull City. Swansea and Sheffield United, a 94th minute winner for Sheffield United there, who stay top of the table. John Egan involved again, full 90 minutes, another clean sheet under his belt. And Ryan Manning played the full 90 minutes for the Swans as well. Preston and Burnley, the big derby in Lancashire. Troy Parrott, Alan Browne, Robbie Brady and Greg Cunningham all playing for Preston North End there. And Josh Cullen playing the full 90 minutes once again for Burnley. No surprise there. Another clean sheet for Jimmy Dunn and QPR, who've really started to play in the last couple of weeks. They beat Millwall 2-0 at the Den. No Danny McNamara, he just stayed on the bench for that game. Norwich 3, Bristol City 2. Norwich who've really come into form after a bad couple of weeks at the start. Andrew Bamadelli still involved, back in the Ireland squad. Also, full 90 minutes for him. Mark Sykes playing for Bristol City as well, a man who you said you would have liked to see in the squad this week. Unfortunately not. And Reading and Sunderland, 3-0 win for Sunderland at the Madejski Stadium. Jeff Hendrick playing the whole game for Reading there. Reading, a team who have either shipped 3 goals or scored 3 goals in all their games so far this season. Every time we look, it's different. Jer, anything that stands out for you there?
From the accumulator.
No, not at all. Anything that stands out for you there, Jer?
Yeah, just pretty much actually Reading, because they're just so up and down and inconsistent. One week they batter a team, as you say, the next week they concede as many goals. Like, you just can't read them what way they're going to be at all. I'd say that they must tear. I'd say all their fans must be bald at this stage, because they probably have their hair torn out that much, and it's only the end of September. The other thing as well is just QPR. Similar as well as kind of start to last season. Remember, they were flying it up until kind of Christmas, and then it just fell off a cliff. Like, so interesting to see can they kind of keep it up. And yeah, good to see Sheffield United and John Egan go through, because it's only around this time 2 or 3 weeks ago he was being linked with a move to Leeds in the last day of the season. I don't really know how strong it was. Never really seen to be much progress in that. And we're thinking great, brilliant, another player back in the Premier League. But long way to go. But Sheffield United kind of keep going the way they are. Hopefully he'll be back there next season. And yeah, Norwich. There's kind of a sense of inevitability here. Of here we go again with Norwich. It's very early days, but again, you just kind of get the sense they've settled their feet down again. They're comfortable. And it just has a vibe. They're just going to walk this championship again. And then this time next year, we're going to be talking about them being 20th in the Premier League with no points after 6 games.
Yeah, 100% completely agree. Adam Eden not involved. He got another injury though, didn't he, a couple of weeks ago? So
yeah, he's gone for a surgery. I think there's a swelling on his knee or something like that that's popped back up from the previous injury. He's out. Gene Smith, this was last week. He says out for 5 to 6 weeks. So it'll probably be another month before he kicks ball. But there is speculation that Ireland will be playing a couple of friendlies in November. So hopefully he'll be back for them games with a bit of game time under his belt.
brilliant. Yeah, I saw he's talking about that the other night, Norway and Malta. So they'd be 2 nice games to get, particularly if Erling Haaland comes over, probably grab a hat-trick against us. Seems to be the way with him this season.
The most important thing is the Norway game is going to be at home, saving us a freezing cold trip in the winter, and Malta is rumoured as the away game, which, as I was actually in Malta in November last year, I can tell you it's still a nice low 20s degrees up there, down there, so it'd be a perfect holiday. Should also lose as well. It's half time in Belgium. Shamrock Rovers are down 2-0 against Ghent.
Unlucky, but a very, very tough trip for them as well. Yeah. That's it from the championship. Anyway, only one bit of action from League One that I found this weekend, or midweek, sorry, this weekend. Pierce Sweeney grabbed a goal in Exeter City's 3-2 defeat away to Shrewsbury Town. So the centre half grabbing a goal there. Nothing from League Two as usual for the last couple of weeks. We crack on into Europe. The only of the loads of action from Europe this week anyway, considering there's nothing in England. Under 21s playing there. Liam Kerrigan got the full 90 minutes in Como's 2-0 defeat to Suda Tirol. I think that's how you say that. And a couple of Irish fans went over to see him there. We had the photo up on the socials, so that was good to see. Aaron Connolly getting 87 minutes as Venezia lost 2-0 to Benevento. Disappointing for them there. Liam Boston played the full 90 minutes as Dordrecht in Holland beat Den Bosch 2-1 in the second division in the Eredivisie. And Dan Crowley got full 90 minutes as Willem II drew 2-2 with Pek Zwolle in, again, the second division in Holland. So, Jer, the 2 lads coming back to play for the 21s against Israel. A big game coming up. Hopefully they can do the job.
Yeah, massive game coming up tomorrow week. And particularly the fact that the senior team are away that weekend. I think it's a great chance to try and get as many fans into Tala. We've seen it wasn't far off a full house. I know it wasn't the full house that was promised, but it wasn't far off a full house. The women's game against Finland a fortnight ago. I was seeing what that done. This is equally as important game for us. We've never qualified for an under-21 tournament, so it'll be massive to get there. And the first leg at home, it's vital that we give ourselves a good platform going over to Israel a couple of days later. So, hopefully we get as many fans there. As I touched on earlier, it's a pretty strong-looking squad. And it's good to see the likes of Ian Carrigan and Aaron Connolly. Obviously, Aaron, look, I think we might as well be honest. Like, he'll be disappointed himself he's not in the senior squad, but I think he knows himself that he's still a while away from getting back in there, so it's important that he stamps his entirety with the 21s and shows that, I have someone who has aspirations to be in senior squad. I've been there before, and kind of give off the impression that you're a little bit above this level. But good to see now he's getting a couple of starts under his belt in Serie B, and like I said, no more than the boys in England. They've got another game this week as well, and I think the great thing as well with the game being on Friday, it gives Jim Crawford pretty much nearly the whole week, apart from maybe a bit of recovery, for lads to play Sunday to work on things in the training ground, which is great as well. And just even interesting on the stuff in the Dutch league, Dan Crawley kind of seems to be a forgotten player, because he was someone when Mick McCarthy just took over the second time around. He announced his interest and declaration for Ireland. He was flying it in the Dutch Eredivisie with Willem II. I think that's how you pronounce him, or William II, whatever.
Willem II.
Willem, sorry, yeah. And they got to the Dutch Cup final that year, and Mick McCarthy went over to watch him. And I don't think can happen. A lot of players in the cup final, the occasion seemed to get the better of him, and he just kind of seemed to fall off the radar kind of ever since after that, and he's never really kind of followed up. It's disappointing. Interesting to see him down in the Dutch second division. I think he went to Birmingham actually.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and he started off well, and then he just completely was frozen out by Adrian Karanka, and yeah, so it's disappointing to see, because as we were saying, he's shown before that there is potential to play at a higher level, but he's still only 25. So you never know. But again, I think in terms of making Stephen Kenny's radar, he's probably fallen a long way down that pecking order now.
Yeah, that's not the first time I've heard someone being dropped by Aitor Karanka. I heard Stuart. I was listening to a podcast from Stuart Downing, and he said he was an absolute nutter. So he was delighted to see the back of him when he got sacked by Middlesbrough. Um, we move on to USA and Australia now as well. Bit of information. Double game week for some over there in the United States. Derek Williams played twice as LA Galaxy were beaten 3-0 by Vancouver and drew 1-1 with Nashville over the course of the week. John Gallagher played in Austin's 3-0 win over, I forgot to write who they were playing. They won 3-0 last night anyway, and they lost 3-0 to Seattle on the weekend. So, again, they're probably guaranteed the playoffs by now, but still, inconsistent form could hamper that once they get into the playoffs. And Shane O'Neill played as Toronto were beaten 4-2 by Atlanta at home, away from home on the weekend. And finally, from Australia, Brisbane Roar semi-finals of the Australian FA Cup. Jay O'Shea played, but unfortunately they're beaten 3-2 by Sydney United, a team who aren't even in the top division there. So, unfortunate for Brisbane after a tough season last year. Could have got to a cup final before the league starts on the 7th of October. But look, they're out. Unfortunate, but they did. They gave it a good crack. Jer, anything you want to talk about there?
No, just I'm always interested in to actually talk about the MLS. Is absolutely perfect to talk about what's one of the main talking points at the moment, and probably emphasizes why you hate American sport culture so much with this nonsense talk of a All-Stars North versus South Premier League game. I'm sure. What was your initial reaction when you heard that?
Well, my initial reaction was this fella has sacked the manager after 3 games, so he obviously hasn't got a clue. He sacked a European winning manager, so he obviously hasn't got a clue. He's pulled this out of his arse, and look, this is where we're at. It would be a nice friendly game before the season starts, but you couldn't do it during the season. Like, we're not all about that. There's like Henry and Carragher were talking about it the other night. Like, it doesn't happen in Europe. Like, in Europe, it's like dog v dog. That's it. You win, you lose, you get relegated, you get promoted, you win the league. That's it. Like, there's no in between. No point in changing it.
Like, I don't like this kind of concept. Like, I can't remember his name again at the top of my head. I heard it so many times yesterday that I should remember it. But the Chelsea owner, like you're coming into the English League. You don't have a right to go change rules that were there already, or the culture, or how things are run, just because this is how it's done in your culture or the country that you're from, and this is the way it's. Like, you're not here to take over. You're only here to play your part. Like, you're going to be gone again in no length, and like, yeah, you get the vibe that, like, as you say, like, football wise, doesn't kind of seem to come across as someone that's that awfully well kind of clued in. As you said, sacking. I know Chelsea have had an inconsistent start to the season, but a lot of teams have had, like, it's perfect. And like, to be brutally honest, I'd be very, very shocked if we're not here in the new year in the second half season and we're talking about Chelsea's third manager of the season. That's nothing against Graham Potter. It's just because this fella probably will sack him if he has a couple of bad results. And to be honest, he's probably already under a little bit of pressure because Chelsea now face a big task to get out of their Champions League group after a very, very disappointing result again last night against Salzburg. Like, they've played the 2 weakest teams in their group and they've only 1 point.
Yeah, exactly. I think with Chelsea as well, you've got to realise, like, Tuchel had a very difficult task last year with the whole situation that was going on there. They didn't implode. They were unfortunate to lose 2 cup finals on penalties. I'm not saying unfortunate, like, you win on penalties, but it could have gone either way. Like, and that yourself.
And the balance of both games, it could have gone either way. Like,
exactly, there was nothing in the games.
Yeah,
Tuchel got them top 4. Like, it was like towards the end, it was getting tight between Spurs, Arsenal, and themselves as well because they weren't playing well. But he got them there. Like, they were unfortunate to lose to Real Madrid in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Real Madrid ended up winning it. No shame in that. But they were so close to catching them after being 3-1 down from the first leg. Like, we can talk about it until the cows come home. It was wrong. But look, these boys have their own ideas, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, don't get me wrong. As a neutral watching, like, I think it's a brilliant idea. I think it'd be a brilliant game to watch and a great entertainment. But like, it's something that you really, realistically speaking, I just don't see where it fits in. The end of the season, yeah, I think it's kind of good and grand, but like, the interest levels aren't going to be there in players. They're going to want to jot off on their holidays, or they've got the international schedule to get out of the way with, or it could be a major tournament somewhere. And the start of the season, I'm kind of like, it's the last thing managers will want, like, as they're trying to get preparation, get fitness levels, and get games under their belt, that their players jot off for this pointless, just for the sake of money making and a bit of entertainment. Like, yeah, in theory, it seems like a good idea, but like as Jurgen Klopp kind of joked and laughed, like, let me know when you find a realistic time in the calendar to squeeze it in, because there just isn't. Like,
No, no, there's not. There's not. Like, I mean, and you have a risk of injuries there as well. You think of the teams now: Liverpool, Chelsea, United, and Leeds. And who's the other game off this week? Brighton and Crystal Palace have got 2 extra games to play now after this World Cup as well.
Arsenal have
Uh,
a fucking
Arsenal have the
ridiculous.
Europa League. Yeah, Arsenal have
Yeah,
the Europa League game in PSV. The City games had to be moved, and they have
because of
another
that.
one as well. Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
I understand that the European game has to be played, but like now you're going to have to play City at God knows when they're going for the league, and when Arsenal could be fighting for top four, and it'll be fit in between, like, could be a European last 16 leg, a last 32 leg, God knows. So look, we'll have a bit of fun with that anyway. Jer, I actually have to run. Sorry, I have to go to train. So will we leave it there? I think we leave it there. Anything else you want to say?
yeah. There's nothing much said. I think the only other thing I was just going to add is I just think the game should not have been called off last season. It's just add more fixture
Yeah,
congestion onto an already complicated season. Every other sport in the UK went ahead again last Saturday, apart from the football. So look, yeah, that's all I kind of have to say. I feel like there's nothing else to say now. To
yeah,
be
I
honest,
complete.
Rovers the second half is just kicking off. So yeah, that's me. That's me done for this week anyway.
Hopefully, Rovers can get back into it anyway. So, guys, thanks very much for watching. Thanks to Jer for jumping on. A brief show this week. We'll have more for you next week, obviously, with the Premier League back and fixtures being on the weekend. So, thanks very much, and talk to you again soon.
Cheers. Thanks for everyone for watching.